WP, your job is to take away the powers of supervillains as they're admitted to jail. For a few years, you've been reselling these powers to interested bidders on the side, no questions asked. Today, a prisoner showed up with a power so unusual, you've decided to take it for yourself. His machine was proprietary, and it had been no mean feat to keep it that way. Keep still, he instructed the struggling prisoner, who was barely held down in his chair by iron clamps and two caped heroes. Stop. I command you to not use that thing on me. Michael chuckled, sounding much closer to the mustached villain than the infamous super in front of him. For all their bravado, supervillains always squealed under the point of his laser. He flicked a lever, adjusted a dial, and inputted a password, charging up the device. Please don't, the villain murmured, no longer fighting his restraints. I could help you. I could make you powerful. Just don't do this. Ignoring the pitiful monologue, Michael pressed the big red button. He always delighted in the texture as it's pushed down, along with the satisfying click. Extending out from the large, whirring machine was a rod, and at the knobby end of that rod a green light formed like a ball of energy. All the while the villain was saying, "No, no, no, no." Suddenly a burst of green energy shot out from the ball and struck the imprisoned villain square in the chest. He shrieked once, even though Michael knew for a fact it didn't hurt, and then fell limp. Michael checked the machine's input, and was satisfied to see that the superpowers of the villain had been successfully transferred to the belly of his contraption. "You're going to dispose of it now?" one of the superheroes asked Michael. He nodded. But, wheeling his machine out of the sterile room, Michael had no plans to get rid of the valuable superpowers stored inside of his machine. In fact, he had an army of bidders lined up for this very commodity. The truth was, Michael didn't care about ruling the world or being famous. The only thing he cared about was money. Not even what money could buy, but the very idea of money itself. It was an addiction really. Once he was alone in the large RV he used to store and work on his machine, Michael checked to see what the superpowers were, to get an idea of how much they would sell at auction. Oh no. Oftentimes, superheroes or villains alike had powers they didn't know about. Usually they were minor things, like the ability to raise the temperature in a room by 1 degree. This was different. Clearly, the villain he had stolen from did not realize his greatest power was yet untapped. Michael reran the diagnostics, desperately hoping that it was mechanical error. But every refresh gave him the same answer. With these powers, you could kill anyone with a single word. This was worth more than mere millions. Michael could fetch the GDP of a civilization for it. But should he? It was the first time he had asked himself that question. He had never had qualms with unleashing godlike powers on rich bidders before, because it made him stacks of cash. But this attacked his well-hidden sense of morality. Then the door to his RV was torn off and a caped hero flew in. Heroes, always barging into what could be gently opened. To Michael's shock, it was Vic, the leader of the country's Hero League. "I'll make this quick," she said. "I can see what powers everyone has. It makes it easier to keep supers in line. So don't try to lie to me about what you have trapped in that machine." Michael gulped. She continued. "You know how to operate that. I don't. Give me those powers and I'll make sure nobody knows you are selling out." "Why do you want them?" he asked, stalling for time. "This is the solution to villains and crime. Killing with a single word. Do you know what good we could do with that?" Vic said this with captivating intensity, her eyes steeled and hungry, though he had abandoned idealism long ago. Michael didn't know about this. A long neglected sense of right and wrong was rearing its head once more, and it told him to find another way. "It doesn't matter to me," he told Vic with a shrug. "But it will cost you 5 million. "Yes. Fine," she said snappily, while he powered on the machine. He worked out the details in his head. It was a dangerous plan, and even if it worked, it would change his life forever. On the knobby end of the rod, green energy bulled up, preparing to fire. Vic stood eagerly in front of it, Powers coming in 3, 2, and then Michael spun the machine around to face himself and felt the powers shoved into his body through the green laser while Vic watched in anger and horror. When it was done, Michael doubled over, gasping. "You're going to pay for this," Vic said quietly. "I believe you're threatening the most powerful person on the planet," Michael said simply. Then he pressed the big purple button on the machine, which was considerably less fun than the big red one. Immediately the contraption combusted, becoming a useless pile of metal and wires. "I don't understand," Vic said, obvious wary of him. "What are you going to do with this? Become a villain?" "No," he said, walking past her out of the RV. "I plan on trying to forget the killing word and live a normal life. If you come after me, however, I can promise that the word will not be far from my lips." It was strange to be the good guy. Maybe he could grow to like it. Laser eyes. Sold. Too many of them. Out of style. Mostly welders and handymen who save on electricity this way. Most buildings have inbuilt layers to resist the heat anyway. Not like you could take over the world with it. A few dollars. Telepathy? Sold. No more need for a phone. Can exchange love letters with a boy or girlfriend without a parent noticing. No chance to raise an army with it. Psychic drones scan the thoughts of the mass for extreme emotions and easily single out who provokes them. A few dollars. Flight. Sold. Never old. Always liked. Always a good coin to be made. Jetpacks are cool and all. But come on. Who wouldn't want to watch the start of dawn from the Himalaya before racing the sun? Without need for fuel? This one's always cool. You think about keeping one such power for yourself. One of these days. But there's so much work. Too many assholes with too much power birth hubris and mayhem before security interferes to put a stop to it. Usually, these are ex-prisoners themselves. X-ray vision. Unsold. Limited use. Only for a niche market. Mostly radiologists and a few other doctors. About the only one who can actually read and interpret the radio without inflicting radiations on the patient. Perverts thought it would be cool. Until they learned that X-rays shows you the skeleton, not the skin. Mesmerism? A handful. Everyone knows what kind of arsehole used that power. And everyone is trained to withstand it. Now. This. What the hell is this? How did he get caught with that? Why was he caught in the first place? Public panic? Can it be a panic when nobody screams at all? That's weird. The guard that hands it over to you for categorizing doesn't even look at it. The prisoner didn't smash a building. Didn't kill. Didn't steal. He just spoke to people. About what? What's inside that glowing orb that would force the government to arrest the man with the help of the death squad? What, the first league of handicapped superheroes? They were scared of him talking to people. And have them look up to the sky. As if they just knew. At least. That's what the description next to the orb states. You're alone in the room. Trusted with the orb because you're part of the furniture. You've been at it for so long. Curious. You touch the orb. Oh. That makes sense. You know the truth now. You speak to the guard outside. He has his mouth wide open when you're finished. He takes his hat off and drops his gun. Before going outside to sit on the ground and gaze to the sky. Content. Others join him. Together. You share what you know. And they, too, lay down arms to get lost in contemplation. In time, the city stops functioning. Every citizen thinks about the truth. The truth of themselves. Of the world. The universe. And superheroes are after you now. They can't let you roam around and put society on hold. One they worked so hard to bring forth. Keeping their vision of the world intact is worth silencing the truth. The death squad is sent after you. Too bad you thought about writing the truth on every roof and street. And there's no blind squad to stop you now. Normally her work was centered around research regarding these superpowers. Once in a while the heroes dumped the evil ones on her doorstep. Her job, then, was to experiment on them. Sucking their powers out. All of them had these boring usual powers. Super speed, super strength, invisibility, whatever. But this one, how did they even figure it out? Bella let out a breath. This one could control the number of white blood cells in others' blood. She could literally give cancer to whomever she wanted. This was surely a dream. This was all she needed. She took a syringe, took a deep breath, and injected it into herself. She stood up, stumbling a bit, gathering her belongings. She all but ran out, her hands shaking a bit all the while she drove up to the hospital, thinking of the possibility. The one thing she had been wishing for months. Maybe this, she thought, could help. Her vision blurring as she saw her sister sleeping on the hospital bed.